Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It is Friday, May 30th, 2025, and today's video I'm going to call More Art Process Tips. But before we begin, welcome back if you're returning and welcome if you're new to the channel. I sketch and post every day and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer. Yeah, I wasn't sure what today's video was exactly going to be about. I was just warming up by playing around with this sketch right here. This page was from the 12th, it says, and then at the beginning of the month, this was sort of the idea for like the head model sheet, which is in the, I made a post about it, and that's kind of how it started. I just was sketching, and then I thought, well, I'll make it into an actual like model sheet because it might be useful, which it is. But also you can just do it like kind of quickly like this. So yeah, in this part, I was doing different heads in perspective. I could talk about that, like drawing heads and like in perspective and everything. But I mean, I feel like I have several videos and I'll do more and I'll kind of like do it here. But in a way, you can only talk about that so much and then you just kind of have to like practice it. So that's why I wanted to talk about like more art process tips. And I'll link to a video I called crafting your own art process, because ultimately like that's what it is. It's just taking some of these ideas from different people and creating something that works for you. So with that in mind, I'm just going to like sketch. I'm not going to talk too much about like exactly what I'm sketching, but like kind of, because it does go with like the art process tips thing. To begin with, and some of this will be like I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit, and plus like that the other video I'm going to link to, the crafting your own art process, will have some of these ideas, and I'll do my best not to like repeat too much. So one thing is creating a process that works for you, and again, these are just ideas and tips. And some things are more like specific to like my own process. So for example, just keeping a sketchbook. So I'm almost done with this. I'm going back in and doing this kind of thing, like filling in. And like sometimes I don't really want to work on an old sketch, but like sometimes I do. So that's kind of what I did here. I was sort of curious about using like the color markers on it. These are like Sharpie paint markers and then like inking and stuff. I was just curious, but like it was kind of like this. But like I don't know that I want to do like this for this picture or this sketch. The whole point of it is like the sketchbook is what I'm saying. It just depends. And then sometimes you'll have this and you might want to draw something. So I'll do that, but just to get warmed up. So that's part of the process, is to have a sketchbook. And then the other thing is, so I always say I start like a 10-minute timer, which there's like 5 minutes left in this one. But in a recent video, I went over like 1-minute sketches and like 5 minutes. And so this one is like 10 minutes. So you can use these videos in that kind of way, or like just use your own timer or whatever. But that's like a process, and it may or may not be useful. So here, another process is kind of learning about like different methods and like different techniques. So I sort of differentiate a little bit. So like a technique would be pen and ink technique is sort of the way I think about that. So sometimes you just want to explore like a pen and ink technique. So what I mean is, this I had like did like a pencil. So there's like a pencil technique, like sketching. I'm just sketching, like doing a pen and ink sketch on top of that, which is different than like inking something, which means like a very detailed pencil like drawing, and then you're going to ink on top of it. Like that's its own thing. That's like a technique also. But the method would be kind of like this, where This kind of thing is called like the Loomis method, the world famous, or the YouTube famous Loomis method. So part of it is this. It's like the ball. Then this one I was showing how this is kind of like the George Bridgman method, where you have a cube and then you kind of carve out the cube. And then maybe this one could be called the AOS, or Art of Sedone method. So I just kind of, in the 3/4 view, I just have like the face, as I call it, right here. And then I attach like the spherical shape like in a 3/4 view, which is kind of a combo of that method, by the way. In the John Buscema, which is the drawing comics the Marvel way artist, it was kind of similar to this in the sense that like there was sort of an ellipse, and then like the cheekbones go down to like where the mouth is. But in that book, I feel like they left out a lot of stuff. I don't, like, maybe intentionally or accidentally. So yeah, they kind of left out some info. But that's like the basic idea. So that's methodology. But the like pen, like using a pen is like a technique. Just like the line work is kind of a technique. So this is sort of like a sketchy line, you could say, because I'm not inking it. I'm not like trying to trace over like the pencil, which is more about rendering. And then, yeah, just to go back to like the art process. So yeah, technique is a process. The methodology, this is like head construction. That's like a methodology. Like another methodology would be, you could work from reference. That's like a method. It's not really a technique. So for example, I just open like Pinterest and it's like the home feed or whatever. I kind of have like a construction here, like a head construction. I'll just find something kind of similar. Also, like a technique is also like this. So maybe I'll just do that. I'll just use one of these paint markers. I'm going to go with like a yellow color. So these things are pretty limited. There's only a few colors, but you can kind of combine them with like color pens and stuff. But really I'm just using like the light color first, and it's like an experiment. It's not too bad. Like you can kind of see, like I went in with a color pen and then like a ink pen. And this one I actually did like the shadow and then left like the white of the paper. So I'm going to like work on this. It's just going to be from reference. So sometimes it's from reference, sometimes it's not. But this one I'll just look at something and kind of talk about the art tips. So yeah, like having a technique. So a technique is like using this paint marker. I'm just going to, instead of putting this on the shadow side, I'll put this on the light side. And just kind of using this as a guide. So this is a technique. The head construction is like the methodology, which is setting up like the construction or like the construction lines or like the proportions and stuff. So that's like a methodology. So you can just say like that's the light, and then you can kind of go over this again, but it starts to warp the paper after a while. But I like the medium. I mean, it's acrylic. And then the other thing, like I was saying, I'm going to let that dry for a second. Like using the timers. So that's like another thing. And sometimes that's good because like sometimes that's like my issue is like the time. Things will either take longer than I think it will or won't take as long as I think it will. And like that messes with me. And so that's why I use timers, because I don't really trust like the way I gauge like how much time something takes. So in a way, like this is using construction, but like not using reference. But let's say that you do this, because I have a lot of sketches kind of like this where it's just sort of not really finished. They're sketches, and I like them. I mean, I think they're good to have in the sketchbook because you can like see the method and like the technique. But yeah, like using timers, I mean, I talk about that a lot. The other thing is the sketchbook itself, you can go back and kind of like what I'm doing here and like do something else with it, like work on it some more if you feel like it. So just to kind of like wrap up this video, I'm going to use like this as the dark color, and like I'm working in the light, whereas this one I was working like in the dark and like the mid-tone. So I already set up like the light, and it's kind of interesting how like, yeah, like that could still be considered the dark, but you could go back in, and that's kind of the other thing too. This is like a block in. So a block in would be like a method of drawing or painting. So I'm going to use this as a guide, but I'm sort of glancing at reference. Which is similar to this. Like you can use reference to. I'm actually going to like just draw the light areas and just see what happens, because it's going to be darker. And then you can always paint over it if you've already established that you're going to paint it. And another thing, just to go with like the art tips, is like the steps. So like a sketch. So I have like different kind of concepts. So I have like the concept of imagination, which is just like an example of imagination is part of it is this. Like you can come up with maybe this kind of thing. Kind of like I'm doodling because I'm not really sure what this is going to be. So like doodling, so that's like imagination is what I mean. Like you're just doodling and then you turn it into something. So that's imagination. Study is sort of learning different techniques and methods. So that's like study, and then you can combine it with imagination, because then you can use the method or the technique to combine with like this, for example. So this is like from imagination, but using different techniques to, like there's some construction going on, but like you don't have to like draw everything in. So it's sort of, the technique is like pen or marker, like straight to like pen or marker technique. And then sometimes you can come up with characters this way. But mostly it's like, it's doodling. Like, it's really what it is. So that's imagination, like study, which is also from reference. That's like a study. So I'll just kind of study like a face, like a photo. I'll just study sort of the proportion or like the shape or something. Or like the color. And then the style, notice that part of the style is coming from, so portraiture is a style, for example. Just like if you were doing photography, like portraiture is a style of photography. It's also like the genre, like the look of it, like the costuming or like the story behind it. Also, style is also like the medium. So this is like mixed medium because I use paint, and now I'm going in with like basically a marker, like a colored pen, which is a marker. It's a felt tip pen. And there's like a look to it. Even like the sketchiness of it is like a style. So those are like the three things. So you have imagination, you have so they all go together if you want. So for example, I'm not exactly copying the reference. I'm sort of making I'm making stuff up. And then the other thing are like the stages. So I've done videos on all of these ideas, but the other thing is like if it's a sketch. So it can still be from imagination, but it's still a sketch. Or it can be like a study from reference, but like you're just sketching it in. Versus the next thing, which is here I'm still sketching it in, but then the next thing would be kind of like with this, where it started similar to this, and then you start doing like the light and dark, like you start to like model the forms, or if you don't want to model it, you can also just outline it or something, but it's sort of like the rendering. And then yeah, like the detail. This doesn't really have detail. This is still like the sketch. So I guess just to kind of wrap up, like the basic idea was just as far as like more art tips. So first is kind of like the habit or like the keeping of a sketchbook. And then next would be the difference between like using a technique and like a methodology. So a methodology is just kind of, for example, ways of drawing the head. And the technique could be pen and ink or paint or something like that. So to do like the dark, it just depends on how you want to do it. This isn't a bad look where I actually just use like black ink. It could work. So for example, to kind of work into like the dark, so I started like with the light, and now I'm gonna like work my way into like the dark. And there's different ways. I mean, depends on how you want to render it. Kind of like this, I can go back and like make this be like the dark area. So that's like it's a technique. So from light to dark. So from here it's from like the dark to the light. Which means if it is from light to dark, I can get away with a lot of this kind of thing. Because I'm going to make it darker. like I'm gonna fill that in with something like darker value. Then finally, yeah, like the stages. So just, it's a sketch. I mean, just like with these pencil sketches, I'm coming in, like I'm going back in and just working on it, filling in the sketchbook just to finish the sketchbook. And then that's different than like, so here I'm adding like the shading, and then detail would be, yeah, like blending it and like smaller shapes and like more subtlety and stuff like that. But sometimes this is good just for your own sake, just so you can kind of see like how you did things. And then sometimes like characters will just kind of show up. But yeah, that's more art process tips that I wanted to share with you. I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.